you know, there's always going to be people when you make something that's somewhat controversial that are just flat out not going to like what you're doing.
Right.
And we didn't make the movie for them. You know? That ultimately, if that's their response, is to just cut it off and not even try.
Is there a big, giant, planet-sized weapon in Force Awakens? Yes. And does it blow up? It does blow up. And so there are undeniable, you know, parallels. I very purposely wanted to sort of revisit the old in order to start and tell the new. And that was the challenge. And again, for those who hate it, I could not respect your opinion more. And for those who love it, I question your sanity. It felt right to us at the time, and as does this one now.
You said in a recent interview that you were planning on developing Star Wars Episode 7 before you sold Lucasfilm. Can you divulge any of the details you were working on?
The ones that I sold to Disney and everything, they came up to the decision that they didn't really want to do those, so they made up their own. So it's not the ones that I originally wrote.
JJ Abrams' mystery box theory has garnered quite the infamous reputation in a post-Disney Star Wars world. But what exactly is the mystery box theory, and why exactly has it earned such a nasty reputation? Because the truth is that while Abrams' mystery box is technically somewhat effective, the theory is overall incomplete. Part of the mystery box theory is, to quote Abrams, "I find myself drawn to infinite possibility, that sense of potential, and I realize that mystery is the catalyst for imagination. When I started to think that maybe there are times when mystery is more important than knowledge, I started getting interested in this. To summarize, mystery sparks the imagination, and sometimes what we can imagine is far more important and exciting than the truth. And this part is true. To put it simply, Abrams' mystery box is a storytelling formula that centers on suspense. Instead of concentrating on baking a better cake, one should concentrate on making your reader hungrier. Lee Child's technique taps into the same strategy as Abrams' mystery box, to ask a question and let the audience indulge themselves with the infinite possibility of the final answer. But where it differs is that it actually completes. Where JJ Abrams chooses to ask intriguing questions important to the plot and then never answer them, Lee Child chooses to ask intriguing questions important to the plot and then build that suspense by keeping the reader waiting until he finally answers the question. But the question is eventually answered. Why? Because he knows the answers to these questions are critical to the plot's function. In other words, Lee Child might keep his family waiting 4 hours for dinner, but dinner is eventually served, while Abrams is content promising dinner and then serving nothing and hoping his family will be satisfied with the infinite possibilities of what dinner could have been. In the end, a plot running on the mystery box is like a car trying to run without an engine. Abrams' theory, in reality, is nothing but a misery box.
Is there an impulse in this one in terms of the second of this trilogy to echo Empire or even Attack of the Clones, etc.?
Well, I think sort of by necessity, yes, just because it's a middle chapter of a 3-part story. But it's also, I think, hopefully wholly unique because these are different characters than there were in Empire. And they're on different paths and they're in different places in their lives. So.
Is this film going to pose more questions than it answers? Are the fans going to be satisfied in terms of some of the questions that are lingering from the last one, you think?
Well, I don't know. I hope that they're satisfied, but I also, the least interesting thing in the world, I think, is just, here's the answer to your question, sliding the piece of paper over. But at the same time, the goal was never to, let's draw up more questions, so put it this way, I hope that it's emotionally satisfying. One thing I really loved about The Force Awakens I wanted to keep in this was humor. Mm-hmm. One thing I really want to make sure people know, I think the movie's really funny. These guys are really fun. There's a lot of that fun spirit from The Force Awakens in it.
My name's Finn, and I'm in charge. I'm in charge now, Phasma. I'm in charge. Bring it down. Bring it down.
No, there's a lot of laughs in the movie, too, so I promise. I promise.
I did pose this provocative idea, who is Luke Skywalker, that would be something that was said by one of our characters.
Why was "who is Luke Skywalker" such a fascinating question?
I guess because it spoke to a new generation. It was that idea that there would be young people for whom Luke Skywalker was essentially a myth.
There isn't a day that goes by or went by as we were making the movie where we don't talk about George. You know, it's the standard, what would George do?
Are you looking forward to watching a Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really.
So, as Han's story came to an end in Force Awakens, how did you feel about the ending? Did you feel good about the ending? Do you like the way his story ended up? Did you see that as Han's ending?
Has there been a check-in with George Lucas at all at any point in this?
Just the very beginning of the process, we sat down with him and he shared with us his feelings of what, you know, the Force means to him, and just all he wanted to say, we wanted to hear. And not about story, we didn't like break story with him, but that kind of stuff. Yeah.
He hasn't seen it sort of since, or?
He will see it before it comes out, and I look forward to hearing from him.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say George Lucas, because he gave me everything, and he's a wonderful person, and we all miss him. Once I saw Force Awakens for the first time at the screening he was at, and when I saw him, I gave him a hug and whispered in his ear, "It'll never be the same," because he's not with us anymore, and it's sad, but he's happy.